Yeah, that was fantastic. I guess the question that I want to ask first, very selfishly, is like, what was having Rob like a teacher like, Laura? And then how do you feel like that developed your like how your craft has grown since then? Just because I can't imagine like the joy and like maybe the terror.
It was so fun. You know, I think that gosh, I was coming I was a very lucky writing student, because I had local poet Joe Long in high school. So he was I got to take a class from him when I was in high school, and then at Rob when I was a freshman. So and I would say that what was nice is I felt like Rob introduced me to some poets that I hadn't really paid enough attention to until I was in his class. And one was, you know, gosh, I was 18. So Pablo Neruda would be one, and Mary Oliver. And so, and I think both of those poets were a huge influence on me. So it was nice to be opened up to this world. And I think that he was the first teacher I had who had me read a full collection of poetry, not just single poems. And so that was really eye-opening as a student. And and I feel like he gave us a lot of freedom. And I actually got to do a work study with Rob that was just one-on-one. So after I took a creative writing class, I signed up for a work study and worked with him just on just poems, and that was amazing. So it was, and I think that early on, like sometimes I look at the stuff that I was writing when I was that age, and I feel like I want to kind of, sometimes I need to feel like I need to tap into that space I was in, because I think that there was sort of this I don't know, maybe I wasn't holding back quite as much or something. And I think and the rhythm, like, I mean, just listening to Rob read poems, you can hear like just the importance of the cadence and like the just how things feel read aloud. And so that was another thing that I picked up from Rob. So appreciated that.
Thank
Anyway.
you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
That was so insightful and cool.
And maybe the rest I'll share in private. Just kidding, Rob. I'm not.
Dana at Patterson is asking a question that I feel like all of us have when we listen to Rob's work. And Laura was kind of bringing up like that cadence and all of that, like the beautiful musicality that he brings with it. So Rob, how do you choose which one of your own poems to memorize? Or do you just have them all memorized? Which I feel like is something that like whenever poets see Rob perform is just like, oh my God, how's he doing it?
Well, if I got enough lead time, you know, I can, is my mic on? Yes? Okay. If I have enough lead time, then I can plan what kind of set, you know, and rehearse it the same way anybody would for a play, right? They know they're in this one, and then, well, I'm thinking of repertory companies, right? They have different plays in circulation and multiple actors, right? But they each have parts in these if I have enough lead time. Otherwise, I just have to go from memory. Well, then I probably only have, I don't know, 80 that I already have memorized. Maybe more. I've never done it as a contest with myself, but, and not only my own, ones I really like by other people too, right? There's this poem I love by Robinson Jeffers called Vulture, and I could do that. There's a poem I love, it was in a lit journal, and they didn't even nominate it for a push cart, which was crazy because it was the best thing I read in a lit journal. It was a poem called The Pyromaniac and the Gas Station Girl. And I could probably even do, since Laura mentioned Neruda, Ode to My Socks. I mean, if I just have to, I believe I can, right? One thing. My office is like some sort of tech poltergeist. The lights keep going on and off, on and off. I miss light switches, right? What the hell? But yes, Willie, I just have a lot memorized, I guess is the answer.
some of my poems memorized, but I'm too chicken to do it from memory when I read. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I guess the follow-up question I have for Rob is just like, how did you end up doing that? I feel like not a lot of poets these days are memorizing their work, except for like slam poets and stuff like that. But like, even then, we're not talking 80 poems. So like, I feel like that's a really unique thing that you have to offer. And I'm just kind of curious how you developed that sort of
Well,
discipline.
there was one time, and I mean, I don't want to take a long time answering, but there was one time, and I was falling asleep, and a line came into my head, and I thought, gosh, I should get up and write that down. And as I was thinking that, the next line came. And then, so I was saying them in my head, 1 and 2, and then the third. And this went on and on and on. And at that point, I had to decide, get up and write it down or memorize it and hope. And when I woke up in the morning, it was still all there. And I thought, okay, well, when I do the reading coming up, I will do this one from memory. And then I thought, oh, well, it's the longest one I've got. I might as well memorize some short ones too. And this was the last year I lived in Louisiana. Then I moved out to Salt Lake, and I didn't really know people, but there was a place called Cup of Joe, and this woman, Melissa Bond, was promoting a poetry slam, and I didn't know what that was, but I thought, okay, I'll go, and maybe I'll meet some people. And they had a rule. The rule was it had to be original, less than 3 minutes, and it had to be from memory. And so I did. And you know, not even Melissa did, and she was the boss of it. People were doing things from scratch notebooks, and I thought, they're all cheating. And they didn't even lose points. They didn't even lose points. But that's why, you know, I mean, that just reinforced it. The one thing followed by the second thing, and then the rules were the rules. And I was always told you have to follow them as a kid. And so I thought I better be ready. And I'm glad, because it's easier to have things in your head than to move back and forth. For me, especially because I can't see right. I can't see the room and read because I have to take my glasses off to read. And I can't, you know, so memory is better for me, you know, eyesight, all the things I just said, blah, blah, blah.
That was such an insightful answer. Thank you so much. That I feel like that's a mystery everybody in the like Utah poetry scene has been asking.
Oh, really?
Forever. So now yeah, of course. It's legendary. Your ability to memorize. Katheryn, a question for you. And a reminder, please drop your questions in the chat, or if you're feeling brave, turn your camera on. So you were mentioning that you had been working on this project for 5 to 6 years, right? Yeah, and I'm guessing like, and this is like a total poet question, so I'm sorry if it like does not make sense in an artist's mind, but like when I think of poets, I often think of them like in collections of like their work and their projects that they're doing. So like, do you have any other projects before this that are kind of like collections that could kind of fit that way? Is this technically like your first collection, if that makes any sense? Like, can you just draw us out a little bit of just your trajectory so that we can be a little bit more familiar with your work?
Sure. Yeah, so I have been doing interpretive landscapes for years. I when I started my BFA, I went on this chair kick, and I was painting chairs. And the chairs were very figurative. You know, they have arms and legs. They were interactive because they invite you to sit down. And I was like really intrigued with chairs. I was putting them in these serene places in empty rooms with windows. And then I, for the first time, went to Washington State and went into a rainforest because, you know, Utah has big mountains, small trees. I was like, whoa, these vertical lines are going up so high, and I'm inside these trees, and it's so big, and the lights coming in, it feels like a cathedral. And so I started to paint inside the forests, and it was really about the light, and it was really a format in which I could really explore color theory and try, you know, because colors will glow in certain contexts, and it was really fun to me. And so I was doing these insides of forests, and I did my final show like that, and I just never stopped doing that, only I kind of expanded it out into the desert a lot. I mean, I lived in Pennsylvania for years and out east, and so that's very foresty out there. So there was just a lot of that and I loved adding water because there's the reflection, and they were really about the composition but a lot about light coming in. And then I started to put cityscapes and the same kind of concept with the cityscapes and the light coming in. And so I've been doing basically that kind of theme for 30 years. I mean, I haven't stopped. And just kind of expanding. In my mind, there's all this variety because of, I'm kind of going on this part of the color wheel, and then I'm going over here, and it's all about light, and I add a cityscape. And somebody, I showed my work to somebody at a university, and they were like, why are you painting the same composition like over and over again? I was like, what are you talking about? They're all different, but maybe not. So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing. And then so this is really different, like I've been doing figurative stuff, but they're part of this landscape, but having the figures be sort of more whimsical and more like, this is totally new. It's totally, and I really appreciated that. So it's getting me outside of my place and doing something else. So I have those, and they're on my website that my son made for me. It's KatherynStottBuxton.com, and it has the light series. I call it painting light, and then there's the blue nudes, and I'm not done, and I probably won't ever be done painting blue nudes if this 30 years of my career says anything about how I stay with something. So yeah.
Wow, that was really cool to hear. Laura, I kind of feel like Katheryn's comments have kind of prompted this question, but are you going to continue with blue nudes? Are you going to change to green nudes, or just leave the nudes altogether?
I have left the nudes altogether. I kind of got to this place. I feel actually a little bit bad about this because at some point in the plan, because initially I had all these poems written, and then I handed Katheryn those poems, and then she did a set of painting, and then I did more, and I handed her the whole manuscript, and she did some more paintings. And at some point I said, okay, I'm going to write some poems. I'm going to look at your paintings and then write some poems. But then when we got to that point, I just felt like the book was done. I was like, I'm done writing these poems. I was just sort of in this headspace of nope, I don't. And I guess, I don't know if other writers feel like this, but sometimes you might get to a place where you're like, I can't look at this book anymore. And I just felt like I was finished with it. And I just said, I can't write any more of those poems. And so I didn't, and I was done with that. So I guess that I might change my mind down the road, but I feel like right now I'm into some other projects, and I have a book that I'm trying to finish. So I've gotten a little bit I used to spend all my summers up in Alaska. I did that for about a decade, going up there and working in the summertime. And I haven't written that much about Alaska until more recently. And so I've been kind of diving into that imagery. I've been pretty obsessed with bears and whales, and just sort of fascinated with how ever present they are in that landscape. You're always thinking about a bear when you're in Alaska, because it could be behind you at any moment. So it's just so that's just sort of always in the back of your mind. And so I've been thinking about that. But so that's what I'm doing now. But I am very excited to see, I think eventually we've done actually a couple of exhibits, Katheryn and I, where we have had the paintings hung and also the poems hung. And so, and we were hoping to do that again when the book came out, but with the pandemic, we couldn't. So one day we'll do another gallery showing, and I'm excited to have new blue nude paintings there to be a part of it. So
Yeah, I feel like the new Blue Nude paintings give this project just the option of like growing and like having
Yeah.
different physical live manifestations, which could be really fun. Of
Mhm.
course, once the pandemic's over, or not, we can just zoom all the paintings in as we did
Yeah.
tonight, of course, as well. I don't see any new questions, and so I'll end with a question for Rob, and this is essentially Dana's question, except Laura kind of already answered it, so I'm not gonna ask Laura for it. But Rob, you have a few like new projects coming out. Are you willing to give us a teaser of what those are going to be like? I know there's a nonfiction book, another poetry book, probably another poetry book after that. I don't know. But I know you got project after project coming out soon. So
Yeah, there's a book coming out in February called Call and Response, and those are poems. And a book coming out in April, which is a collection of 42 flash essays about the environment, politics, and politics. And that's called Accidental Gardens. That publisher, it would be out already, but that publisher is in Australia, in Parndana, on Kangaroo Island, which was one of the places wiped out by the bushfires.
damn.
I mean, not just the offices, but the publisher's house. So they've been, I mean, it's a literal out of the ashes thing, not a figurative one, very much all burned and having to start over. And anyway, that's exciting because it's the first book that's, creative nonfiction. And then even down the road, though I still don't have exactly the details, just the acceptance, children's stories from a publisher called Little Nomad, which is an imprint of Nomadic Press. And they have offices in Oakland, in the Bay Area, and also I think in New York. So I'm anxious to see, because I sent 3, they accepted all, and I don't know, do they want to do a series, or do they want 3 between one set of covers? And they're not just delightful little stories. They're the project there at Little Nomad and Nomadic Press is serious stuff. So they are children's stories for kids, coping with difficulties, divorce, death of a parent, feeling excluded, bullied, worthless. So, but they're animal stories, right? Creation myths, fables. And if the illustrations are right, then I think that they could probably be of use. I mean, you always want, or maybe not, but I want to be of use. I mean, so many people think writing has no particular concrete, practical applicability, and I disagree. I think it really, I think it does, So those are the things. And then if I can be, not a jerk for thinking it, I have what's ready is a new and selected. And I feel like after this much, it's probably okay to think big picture. So those are the projects.